Hey everyone, it's Peter Kerr from Daydream Nation, and look who's back from New Zealand, Steve Deluxe from Rock and Metal Invasion. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Peter. Yeah, nice to be back on your show. Yeah, obviously I watch your show quite a bit, and you do a great show. So yeah, always pleased to be on here.
And I watch your show, and congratulations. The subs are just going through the roof, and Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. So today we've got a little bit of fun. We thought we'd do a little bit of a Q&A show between our channels. It could be any sort of free-form question. The subject will be mostly in our wheelhouse or your wheelhouse, Steve, like metal and hard rock. Maybe this and that. Tell us about this, tell us about that. But a bit of fun. It's Christmas time. So without further ado, why don't you hit me with your first question?
All right. Okay, here we go, Peter. Now, I think for me, this would be a fairly easy question to answer, but I'm not sure how easy it's going to be for you. So the question is, Dio or Coverdale?
Coverdale.
Oh.
Yeah, look, he's my favourite singer of all time. And look, that was straight off the bat.
Yeah.
So, look, I like Dio a hell of a lot, but David Coverdale is one of my favourite vocalists. And I've followed him for about 40 years.
Yeah.
I've got all his albums, and I'm a fanboy. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
David Coverdale for me, for the win. All right, here's a curly one, my friend, from across the ditch. Judas Priest or Iron Maiden?
Oh, yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that is a difficult one. I'm going to go with Judas Priest.
Please explain.
I just think for consistency, like they've got, Iron Maiden's got some great albums, but for me, the albums are in the 80s. Past the 80s. Not that I haven't heard them, but maybe I haven't given them enough of a chance. But yeah, recent Iron Maiden, I like some of the songs, but I've enjoyed more the recent Judas Priest a lot more. And maybe I'd say 80s Judas Priest versus 80s Iron Maiden's pretty much a draw, but Judas Priest on their more recent stuff is better, so I'm going to give it to them.
Okay, no problem. That's a good answer, but I gotcha.
Yeah, that was tough. That's tough. Oh, that would be tough for a lot of people, I think, that one.
I think so, because it's like choosing your favourite kids, isn't it?
Yeah.
And how I would qualify that is how I would answer is I like one in a live setting more than one in a studio setting. For example, I think the Judas Priest do better records, but live, I prefer Iron Maiden. So I'd probably be I'd be a fence sitter.
Yeah. And those two bands have been a little bit competitive with each other, haven't they? It's almost like they know they're kind of head to head a little bit.
Absolutely, very competitive. And look, Maiden is still at a peak. They still are a major draw card. Judas Priest, not so much. Even though they were in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, they may get a bit of a lift out of that. But like 80s, they were toe to toe.
They were
heavyweights.
All right,
Beautiful.
This one could be a tricky one for you. 3 albums. You can only take 3 albums to a deserted island. What ones are you going to take?
Rightio. Beatles, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, Prince, Purple Rain soundtrack, and Rainbow Rising.
Nice.
So Beatles, it was what I was brought up with, my, brothers and sisters, and, first taste of music is always purely the Beatles, and I think that's their masterpiece. Perfect. Purple Rain, Prince, it's got a little bit of heavy metal flash. It's got finesse. I think it's the perfect album. There's not a dud track on it. And Rainbow Rising, I think that's just that's majestic. It invented power metal. It's Ritchie Blackmore's finest, and I love Ronnie James Dio, and I love it. And who doesn't like that album cover with the rainbow? So there you go.
Oh,
thank you. That's a good one.
Yeah.
All right. Steve, tell me about the very first record that you purchased with your own money. Do you remember that?
The very first record I purchased with my own money. Yes, I do. And it wasn't hard rock or heavy metal. The record shop had a deal. Now, I can't exactly remember what the deal was, but it was a good deal in the sense if you bought two records, you got them it was almost 2 for 1. It was like maybe a few dollars more than one record. So it might have been like 2 for $30 or 2 for 20. I can't remember. We're talking like, 40 years ago or something like that. Still quite a lot of money though, actually, when you think about how long ago it was, because, like it wasn't, when you think about, you might think, it was 2 for $10 or something. It wasn't that cheap. It was like, 2 for 25 or 2 for 30 or something like that. And I got, Phil Collins, No Jacket Required. Yeah, No Jacket Required. And Cyndi Lauper, She's So Unusual, which had, girls just want to have fun on it. And so.
Well, there you go. I remember those. Do you remember the days when they had albums and you had the like 2 of the same artist? So if it might be 2 Joe Cocker, and it was actually, it folded out like a double album, but it was actually 2 separate single albums joined together, and it was like a 2 for 30 or whatever.
Yeah, right. Good deal. Yeah.
Yeah. No, okay. There you go. Cyndi Lauper and Phil Collins. Cyndi Lauper's actually touring next year. She's supporting Rod Stewart, so still going strong.
I was, I wasn't the big music fan that I am now, but I was just starting to get interested in music, and obviously it's stuff I'm just hearing on the radio, but the funny thing is, because I listened to it then, I can still enjoy that now. You know what I mean? It's like,
absolutely.
I'll put that on, and because I know those albums. I
think we're all kids of pop.
Yeah,
children of pop, and then we go on our own journeys. So no, nothing to be embarrassed there. That's great.
Oh, no. All right. This is an interesting question. This could be a show, but let's just try and keep it short today. The question is Van Halen heavy metal?
Hard rock. Yeah, heavy metal has a lot more of that down tuning.
Yeah.
Chugga chugga. I wouldn't say Van Halen's not aggressive, but there's a specific sort of sonics in respect of heavy metal that I don't think Van Halen, for example, a lot of their songs are bright and happy. Heavy metal is a little bit more serious. You're not supposed to smile. But when I think of David Lee Roth, I think of him doing Star Kicks and doing Panama and Jump.
Yeah.
I think sonically it's definitely in the domain of hard rock, but a lot of people have said heavy metal, and if it was on heavy metal, it'd be on the border between hard rock and heavy metal. But I think sonically with the guitar, it doesn't have that sort of really down-tuned, like a Tony Iommi. That's like heavy metal to me. Van Halen is kind of like, you've got, a bit of heavy bass and drums, but you've got a lot of guitar pyrotechnics over the top with some very bubbly, happy, observational lyrics. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's a good answer. No, my thing, I would agree with you. I would say hard rock, but also if someone said it's heavy metal, I wouldn't go, no, it's not. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can say it's heavy metal too, and I think in 1978, when their debut album came out, I think it was 78. I mean, if people said that was heavy metal, it pretty much was at that time, if you know what I mean. I think the way we see heavy metal has changed over time.
Absolutely. And I always associate the chugga guitar, like the rapid fire guitar, like an Iron Maiden or a Judas Priest, that sort of guitar sound, the percussion type sound to be heavy metal. And I don't think Van Halen's quite that.
Yeah. It's interesting if you look at, like, if you get some like compilation that came out in 1980, like it could be called, I don't know, whatever, Metal Madness or Heavy Metal Hits or something like that. Came out in 1980, it will have all these bands that you go, that's not heavy metal, that's not heavy metal, that's not heavy metal,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Vanilla Fudge in the late 60s or Iron Butterfly. may have been construed as heavy metal. It's an evolving thing.
That's right. Yeah.
And so there's so many genres, but no,
Yeah.
I think it's clearly, I said in a long-winded way, but I think Van Halen's very hard rock.
Cool.
All right, mate, I've got one for you. Do you have a guilty pleasure album in your collection that from time to time you dust off and put on the turntable?
Well, I'll probably go with Samantha Fox. And I've actually been doing a little bit of research on her recently because, the album touched me. Again, one of those sort of albums when I was just getting into music, that was a big hit, and I had the album, and it has a song on it, Do You Want to Please Me, which is actually kind of a little bit more hard rock. See, she's got like she's got an actual band, like, a hard rock sort of band playing with her. And I really like that song. And, I liked that song before I got into sort of hard rock and heavy metal. And I can understand why I liked it because it's quite a rocking sort of a song. And then looking into some of the other records she's put out after that, there's always been one or two songs on her albums that actually are rock songs. And you can check out one of my old shows where I think it's about where pop rock bands kind of go harder and heavy sort of thing. And I've created a Spotify playlist, and there's a lot of Samantha Fox, which might surprise some people. So, she's a definite guilty pleasure for musical reasons.
Right. Okay. Huge over here with that Touch Me song.
Yeah.
And maybe, she was going out with Paul Stanley for a while.
Oh, yeah, quite possibly.
Yeah. No, she was. Did you not know that?
No.
No, she was. She was she around the era of Asylum.
Oh, okay.
They were going through that era. She was Paul Stanley's girlfriend. Right. So I'm sure that there was a little bit of Paul influence in her musical style.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
and there's
a over here.
Yeah, and there's a band called Nesta. I don't know if you've heard of them. They've just released an album quite recently on Napalm Records. It's a really good record, really good album. And it's a total throwback to sort of 80s. And she does a duet with the lead vocalist, and it's really good. But it's like total 80s ballad. So she's still around, still singing, and
absolutely. And to those folk in the Americanas, Samantha Fox was like what you would call a page 3 girl. So in the papers in England, they would have a girl in a bikini. God knows why. I think that was even in New Zealand for a period of time, but it was definitely in Australia in the 70s where they'd have these certain afternoon papers and, turn to page 3 and you've got some curvaceous model in a bikini for whatever reason. And she was very famous and then went into a music career and had a couple of big hits. Well, there you go. You surprised me with that one. So I'm learning.
There we go.
Tick.
All right. Question for you now, Peter. Excluding our channels, name a channel you want to give a shout out to, one that you like or just want to give a shout out to.
Oh, My Music Corner, like the old John Clauser. I think he needs more subs, and he's just a genuine, authentic bloke. I like him a lot. So there you go, John Clauser.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I like his
have you watched his channel?
Yeah. And he watches my stuff from time to time. I get a thumbs up or whatever from him. So
he's the real deal, and huge Wasp fan.
Yeah.
And I recently watched one of his shows where he did a panel chat with a couple of folk, and they had their different experiences watching the latest Blackie Lawless Wasp show going around America. And it was really, really interesting. And even if you're not a metal fan or whatnot, but just hearing the experience of going to a concert, thumbs up. My Music Corner.
Okay, cool.
Rightio. So my next question for you, and I'll paint you a picture. It's Christmas Day. You've had the turkey, had nice wine. You're feeling a bit full. You plonk yourself on the couch and you look at your video collection and think, I think I might watch a heavy metal rock video or a concert video. What would Steve Deluxe be watching on Christmas afternoon? What would he choose?
Oh,
only one video.
Yeah. To be honest, I don't really do the video obviously much these days, or the DVDs or anything like that.
But if you did.
Yeah, but if I did, my favorite as a kid, well, no, as a teenager, and I still love it now, would be Wasp, talking about Wasp before. Wasp, I think it was called Videos in the Raw. So they had the Live in the Raw album, and there's the videos, it's like all their music videos, I think up to maybe just before the Headless Children album. So their sort of first three albums had all the music videos, and they had quite a few actually, and they're really good. Say they're really good. They're really just, they're Wasp videos, and they're just classic. And for me, I remember like watching them. It was like, they'd never been played on New Zealand television. So to get to actually be able to watch the music videos, all of them, were great. I particularly like the Love Machine one. That's a good one. I think it had Wild Child as well. They're just all good actually. I love Wasp, so yeah.
Yeah. Look, some of them are a little bit cheesy, like Blind in Texas. But that was the days when they used to put little movies, and it had some sort of production values.
Big productions, yeah. Not cheap.
Especially the ones where he's on the motorbike and like Wild Child.
Yeah, that's right, out in the desert or something, Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, we sound like two grumpy old men in the olden days, eh? Yeah. Don't get videos like that anymore. They don't
make them like they used to. Yeah.
No, they don't. They don't. Anyway, no, I don't think I've got that. I don't think I've actually got Wasp on video, but I always I've got a fair DVD collection, and my pick, I'd always pick Dio Last in Line. Have you ever seen that live in Philadelphia?
I've seen, all his live stuff, I think.
Oh,
yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Good one.
All right. So, Peter, tonight you can see any band that ever existed, and when you see them, you're seeing them at the very peak of their powers. Who would you choose?
Oh dear. There's so many. There's even like punk, like the Clash, Zeppelin, Sabbath. Oh, geez.
But what are you in the mood for tonight?
Maybe Whitesnake 1980 live at the Hammersmith Odeon. And I'm talking about the lineup of Mick Moody, Bernie Marsden, Neil Murray, Ian Pace. And can I choose a support band? I'm going to have it supported by, say, UFO with Schenker. And I don't care. Maybe, the next night they can swap around. It's a fantasy. I'll make, time machine.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, that's a really good one. I'm going to go my next question, and it's going to be called Right Back at You, Mate.
All right. Okay.
What's yours?
Oh, okay. Any band. Okay. It is tough, isn't it? You're going, you have all these bands going through your head, especially when you haven't, also, a lot of them I haven't seen, right? So, I've seen them on TV or whatever. I think I'm tempted to say Wasp again because I've never seen them, but I don't want to sort of keep repeating the same band. So I think I'm not going to go Wasp, and I think I'm going to go for Bon Jovi 1986 Slippery When Wet period. Yeah, because I was a massive fan at that time. So I'm sort of going back in time to that period, and I'm not seeing them now. God, that's not my dream.
No, I'm well. Funny you should say that because I've done a show that talks about bands that no longer rock, And that was one of the ones that John the Music Nut and by the time this clip drops, my show is already up. But we did talk about that, and the comparison between Bon Jovi's first album and their last one, 2020, is like the Grand Canyon. And in the show, I sort of said I had a soft spot for their first album. I'm not a big Bon Jovi fan, but I've got a soft spot for their first two.
Yeah.
Had a little bit of metallic. It was a bit pop metal, but it had a bit of metallic grit.
Definitely. In fact, I'm thinking, because I've got a live recording on record of their live in Japan just after the 7,800 Degrees Fahrenheit came out. So it's only got songs from their first two albums, and that rocks, and it's really good. So I almost even actually now I'm thinking, actually maybe even I don't need the Slippery songs. Just take me back to like, I think it was 85, something like that. And that's what I'd want to see.
Great. And it's just a bit sad because they it's kind of like they've totally disowned that era. I use the word embarrassed. I don't know. I've got a lot of friends that are uber Bon Jovi fans. I mean, they follow, they're in the fan club. They follow them all around the world. And they've been in a few Q&As with JBJ.
Oh, yeah.
And a couple of the audience members ask questions. Why don't you play this? Why don't you play that from the first album? And it's a simple no.
Oh, right.
Like, really? So it's just like a bit of a sore spot. But that 2020 album, it's a real hard listen. I had to listen to it for the show, and it's just nothing like the Bon Jovi that you love.
Yeah. I keep hoping, but then my hopes are less each album, because it's sort of like, well, no, it's probably not going to be. Yeah. Probably not going to be anything that I'm interested in. Yeah. Around early 2000s, I quite like Bounce. Have a Nice Day was not so good, and then it's just been and then Richie left, and
downward spiral.
Well, I thought maybe when Richie left, I mean, I think Richie's a great guitarist, but actually, even when he was in the band in those sort of last couple of albums, they weren't the same band, and I thought actually maybe a new guitarist comes in and they get a bit heavy again, but no, it didn't happen. It's the John Bon Jovi show anyway, and he's going to do what he wants to do. But I mean, even if he's singing the old songs, unfortunately, it doesn't sound good.
Yes, just listen to it on YouTube. It definitely attests to that. All right, mate. I've got another curly one for you. I know you like cricket and you like music. So what would you rather? Would you rather bag 10 wickets against Australia or against England at Lord's? Or would you rather be a lead guitarist in your dream band playing in front of 100,000 people at Wembley?
10 wickets against Australia. Yeah. Easy. Yeah, easy. Because, I mean, they're both great fantasies. I love both. Maybe I could get the 10 wickets and then the next day, be lead guitarist. Nothing like beating you guys at cricket. So, and if I had something to do with it, it'd be awesome. So, yeah, sorry.
That's great. And Steve and I have spoken because Steve's from New Zealand, and the national sport is the All Blacks and rugby union. And Steve's one of the very few Kiwis is that All Blacks shrug the shoulders. Yeah, but when it comes to cricket, which we both love, he's very passionate. So bit of rivalry there. Oh, very good.
Good question. So on that same subject, this is a quick question. Rugby or cricket?
Rugby league, probably.
Yeah, I thought maybe.
Yeah, rugby league for me.
Yeah.
So, and just for the American fans or American folk over there, it's a game played with a ball similar to your NFL with no pads or helmets.
Yeah.
Maybe we're idiots, but it is what it is. Watch it on YouTube. You'll see what I mean. Cool. It's my question, isn't it?
I think it is now, yeah.
Yeah. So, Dokken or Rat? This or that?
Yep.
So the very best Dokken album against the very best Rat album.
Oh, okay. Well, that's different. Okay, then it's Rat. Invasion of Your Privacy. Yeah.
Yeah. And why do you like Invasion of Your Privacy?
Well, that's just like every song's just a banger for me. It's just like just an amazing album. The riffs are really strong on that album. Yeah, just so many great songs. I still play it now, still love it. I'll tell you what though, it's very close because Back for Your Attack is pretty much, yeah, I mean it's comes, if anything comes close to beating it for me, it might be that album because again, same sort of thing. The riffs are just amazing. Every song's a killer. Yeah, so it's actually tight. When I stop and think about it, it's a pretty tough battle. Now, if you'd said overall over the whole career, I'd actually go Dokken. I prefer as a whole the 80s stuff from Dokken over Rat because for me, even though I really love Invasion, some of the other Rat albums are just average for me. While there's a lot of strong Dokken albums. Yeah. So and also, Dokken kept going. They're putting out stuff, and while granted their 90s and stuff in the 2000s isn't as good, it's okay. So yeah,
it's a good answer. That's a curly one for me because I agree. I think Invasion of of Your Privacy is the sweet spot for me. And for Dokken, I love Tooth and Nail. I think that's perfection, perfect pop metal. Yeah, and but I'd probably lean a little bit towards Rat. But yeah, that's a good answer.
Yeah, right. I mean under Lock and Key as well. That another. So those three that we talked. Those three albums from the 80s for Dokken. Yeah, really good Rat albums.
Yeah.
All right. Album or artist who at first you didn't like, but now you actually really like or really love even. So you didn't like them at first, or didn't like the album at first, but now you really like it.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think there are a few. Bob Dylan.
Oh, yeah.
I used to hear a lot of Bob Dylan with my family and my brother, and I didn't like it. But as I've grown older, I appreciate him as an artist and a singer, and a songwriter. Talking Heads in the day, I thought they were a bit, but as you get older, you appreciate the genius and the mastery of their songwriting and just how brilliant they were. And look, I saw David Byrne a couple of years ago, and that's actually on film, not in Sydney, but like a live show on Broadway, and he's like a genius. And see Talking Heads just stop making sense. You'll understand they were just one of the great live acts. But in the day, I was sort of like, they're okay. Even in Australia, like Cold Chisel, that sort of music was all around me at school. I listened to a lot of metal and even a little bit of Split Enz. Strange, because there were a few camps at school. You either like Split Enz or you like Cold Chisel. Split Enz were really huge and they broke over in Australia. But because Cold Chisel was everywhere and Jimmy Barnes was everywhere, it was only later in life that I realised that the songwriting was just, Don Walker's songwriting was just masterly and they were just brilliant songs. So there's a whole list of artists that in the day I didn't really like, but I've grown to love. And I don't know whether it's just maturity or not to say I'm mature or anything, but just through age, you just sort of realise the penny drops and they're really the real deal.
Cool.
Okay, question for you. What band have you seen recently, or you bought a recent album and you thought, if I was in a band, I'd love to play in that band?
Okay. I haven't seen a lot of concerts recently for obvious reasons. But album that I bought recently that I think, that's the kind of band I'd like to be in. Now, of course, I have very little musical talent, but we're in a scenario where I can just suddenly become like quite musical
and get on stage and jam and be the band that you'd love to.
Sure. Oh, this is a tricky one, because I'm listening to a lot of older artists, but also I do check out new music as well. Boy, I'm gonna go with a band. They sound a little bit like Rage Against the Machine. They're called Fever 333, and I love the lyrics. They're quite a little bit political. It's just really aggressive, and I don't know what music I'd be doing. Maybe I'm the vocalist. Maybe I'm just doing the guitar work. I'm not sure, but I'd love to be in that band. I think it's a cool band, and I really like. That's a newish band, and I've got a lot of respect for them. So what they're doing.
Yeah, where do they come from?
America. Yeah.
Okay.
And
I'll check that one out.
Yeah, so Fever 333, and they've released like a couple of mini albums or EPs, and they've got a full length album as well. And like I say, if you like Rage Against the Machine, there's a lot of comparisons there. But they've done, so they were very topical when there were things happening in America. Well, things still are, aren't they? But when there was the some of the actions by the police over there, perhaps weren't appropriate, and they were like, their lyrics really spoke to that. And they're just really angry. And you can see why they're angry when you see some of the things that are happening, and it's just all comes out in the lyrics. Yeah, just like Rage Against the Machine, right? They were like pissed off about stuff, and it came out in the music. And yeah.
All right, excellent. I'll check that one out. I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah,
cool.
Good band.
Yeah, that's good.
All right. My question for you, Peter. This is a two-part question. First part is: does the producer matter to you? And do you have a favorite producer?
Yeah, I do. The producer does matter because he shapes the sound. So for example, the Beatles, George Martin, he's like a fifth Beatle. So if George Martin wasn't doing Abbey Road or Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, it'd be kind of stripped back. It would be different. It wouldn't have the orchestrations. It wouldn't have the sound quality. And this is in the days of the 60s where they only had a couple of tracks and they would overdub and dub again and again and again. So that's the era of the producer being the Savani, the one that is almost like a puppet master that really controls the shots. I've got a soft spot for Trevor Horn. He was in the Buggles, played in Yes, and produced he was like the Mr. 80s pop. Frankie Goes to Hollywood, ABC. I'm talking about Belle and Sebastian. I'm talking about Pet Shop Boys. I'm talking about Grace Jones. He's got this very symphonic sound. He's got a good ear for hooks, and he seems to have the magic dust and can turn a good song into a brilliant song. But it's definitely everything but the kitchen sink sort of production. And listen to Two Tribes, and even in my wheelhouse, David Coverdale was produced by Trevor Horn for The Last Note of Freedom on the Days of Thunder soundtrack. Are you familiar with that song?
Yeah. It's not that heavy though, is it? It's like I heard it. It doesn't really.
Written by Billy Idol too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But that's very much the Trevor Horn sort of sound. So that's a good question. You got me you almost got me there.
Yeah. Cool. I'll just say, it matters. It doesn't matter. Like, I don't look at an album and go, oh, it's not produced by one, but I'll see a producer and think, oh, there's a good chance I'm going to like this, because either this person, that producer, has a good taste and produces good bands, or just like the sound that they get. Yeah.
Well, yeah. But there are some great producers that are a bit hit and miss. For example, Rick Rubin, I'll tip my hat. He single-handedly created a metal masterpiece with Rain and Blood on Slayer, and turned a garage rock prototype thrash band that all their previous albums sounded like demos into a a masterpiece where he was able to separate the instruments, the instrumentation. And that was like a work of art. But then he was handed the keys for Black Sabbath's last album, 13, and to me, that's not great at all. It's too shiny, and he took him in a really wrong direction. So you can have a really good producer, and you look at the name, but it can be hit and miss. So you've got to listen to critics. You've got to listen to word of mouth people like ourselves who actually listen and make up your own mind.
Yeah. It's interesting, when you think about like someone like Andrew Watt, who's done the Ozzy Osbourne album, right? I mean, he's producing, he's writing. It's like maybe
I like him.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like, but that's a really good example of the producer being really important, right?
Probably the songwriter, probably the lyricist.
Yeah.
I think a mate of mine said that like who writes the lyrics? Probably there was like a chart of all these lyrics, and Ozzy will point, yeah, I'll take that. But that patient number 9. And I will do a show at some stage about my favourite picks of 2022, but it's right up there. I really like that album, and I love the production because it had that classic 70s rock production.
Yeah.
So that's the sound that 13 should have been.
Yeah.
More of that kind of 70s classic rock.
Yeah.
Rightio. So my question for you is, what's your favourite movie? It's a little bit off track, but what's your favourite movie?
Taxi Driver. Yeah.
Please explain.
Oh, well, I don't know. I weirdly related to it. I don't know if that's a good thing. But
we're going to get a few comments here. There might be please send the helpline number to Steve Deluxe.
Yeah. I know it's not something you really want to admit to, but obviously the guy had some mental. If you've seen the movie, the guy had some mental issues. Yeah. But had some issues. But also there was some things about him that you liked. I did anyway, and that you could understand why he was the way that he was. And I just think the characters, not just him, but the other characters in the movie are just really interesting. I just love the way it's directed. Sometimes there's no dialogue. You're just looking at things, or the camera's moving to give you emotion and just tell you what's happening. And if you watch a documentary about the making of that movie, you go, oh, now I understand, why they did the things that they did in that movie. The ending is just like so violent and quite jarring, but like really packs an emotional punch. I was just like, when I watched that, I was like, it was in my head for a while. And, that's why my channel is about music. I can't really talk about movies as well as good, as good, but I'm not as knowledgeable, but I did have watched a lot of movies. I used to be more of a movie fan than what I probably am now, but I'm a big fan of 70s movies from the 70s. So. Oh, Peter, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm back up. I'll say it again. Hey, isn't it funny that I'm like you, was very much into movies, and I just used to love it. But in the last 10 years or so, I've sort of grown out of love of the cinema experience. And I just remember, like in the up to 10 years ago, I'd go to a movie every week, and it'd be thrilling and it'd be a lot of excitement. But I don't know if it's because of the streaming or whatnot and the availability of movies everywhere, that just the cinema experience, I'd be lucky to go once or twice a year. I love cinema, but just films, cartoon films, the superhero films don't really turn me on.
Yeah, I just think movies from the 70s, I
love the 70s movies.
They didn't have a formula necessarily. They usually had a good story, and it felt like they had more artistic freedom. And today it's like
golden age.
This is the movie, right? How are we going to market it? Who's going to be the star? the story, everything like this is secondary, you know?
Yeah. I think the 70s is my favorite era of filmmaking, because you had all those great filmmakers. You had Francis Ford Coppola, Brian De Palma,
yeah, great. Yeah, all those guys.
Marty Spielberg, Robert
Scorsese,
Altman.
Yeah.
Just genius. And, you know, if you want to see how good the quality of filmmaking was in that era, look at the Oscar-nominated films and compare it to, like, the last 5 years.
Yeah.
It's just...
Yeah.
But, Taxi Driver. Probably for the folk at home, I wouldn't recommend watching that on Christmas Day, which this clip may likely drop around that period. But it's a rewarding watch. But it is it's pretty strong viewing. But a bit of a masterpiece. Good pick.
For Christmas Day, I'd go for Die Hard.
You're a bag of surprises, mate. I thought you were going to say National National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. No, don't do that.
Yeah, no, I don't really do a Christmas movie, but yeah.
Do you think Die Hard's a Christmas movie?
Yeah, because I'm sure that it's Christmas night or Christmas Eve or something like that when he gets trapped in the building.
Yes, he does, but it's kind of incidental. But it's taken on a life of its own as a Christmas movie.
Yeah, it has a bit, hasn't it? Yeah.
I'm seeing all these T-shirts on my social media that are really playing up on the. There was one wag that did a mock invitation to that soiree in that building.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you're invited to the cocktail party at this place, and it was the location of Die Hard. So, all right, there you go.
Next question. So we just talked about favorite decades for movies. So, what's your favorite decade for music?
Wow, 70s. I think 70s. Yeah, closely followed by the 60s. It's a toss-up between the 60s and the 70s, but I'd say the 70s. Yeah. Quick reverse to you. I think I know what the answer is, but confirm.
Well, yeah, it's not the 70s or the 60s, definitely not the 60s. I'm just not familiar, but with the 60s, and less familiar with this, more familiar in the 70s, but then the 80s is just like, that's where it all happened for me. But then, you know, at the same time too, this is what's, you know, I'm still into music in the 90s and the 2000s, and, you know, and there's lots of great music coming out in those decades as well. And in fact, you know, I didn't really start getting into music until the mid 80s. So as far as actually living with music and really being aware of music, I mean, I'm only actually doing that for the last half of the 80s, but I am going to choose the 80s because I then go back and find all the stuff that came out, you know, later on, but, you know, in the early 80s. And just, you know, I've been doing some shows on my channel, you know, top albums of 1986 and 85. I think I've only done those 2 years, but, you know, just going through the albums that are eligible, it's just like, oh my gosh, there's like so many. I'm doing a top 10. There's so many great albums that are on the honorable mentions, or just, you know, it's actually too many. It's like there's no point me doing honorable mentions because I'd have to be doing a list of about 20 or 30 albums, you know. So so it's the 80s, but 90s. Actually, I'm not a big grunge guy, but early 90s, there was still good hard rock metal coming out, and then the late 90s, heavy metal came back again. So 90s weren't bad either, and there's still good music coming out. Now, so
absolutely, every decade has its peaks, but I think I gravitate to the 70s because it was the era of the supergroup. And you know, I love my hard rock, and that's where the you know, your Deep Purple, Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, Uriah Heep and Rainbow, UFO. So
cool,
excellent. Rightio.
I've got one more. So have you maybe got one more?
Yeah, I do. It's your turn, right? Because I just got so absorbed in that question, that last one. What is it?
Yep. So my last question is just, what's your favorite of the all the shows you've done on your channel? Have you got a favorite one?
Oh, geez, that's really tough. I think I'll name. I haven't got a single one, but some of those Rush shows I really, really enjoy. I love doing Power Windows with the crew, like with Tim Derling and Todd Evans. They're really good shows. Also, I love doing the Bowie shows with Reed Little. No, I can't really just list one. I've got favourite. I like doing that interview with the bass player at the Knack, Prescott Niles. I can't choose one, but I can. I've got some. I can choose a few, and just ones that were sort of highlights, and they're the ones that sort of stick out to me. But what about you? Have you got any particular one? Maybe the one with Mrs. Deluxe.
Actually, that was a lot of fun. And what I liked about
it was fun to watch, mate. I really enjoyed it. I've got to say.
What's fun about that is I didn't really have to do too much. It was sort of like passing it over to her, and she's doing all the talking and getting her sort of views. So like she sees things from a completely different, understandably different way to me. So. That was a fun one. Actually, I've also had my son and my daughter on the show as well. So it's nice to sort of get them involved. So that's a favourite. I got a thrill out of my Def Leppard album review. At the time was my most viewed. It went over 100 views. Up to that point, I hadn't. And I've had a few since then. Have gone over 1,000, which is great. But at that time, it was like, gosh, there's like 800 people who have watched my. That was quite a thrill. I'm no Def Leppard expert or anything like that. And I was thinking, this is I don't know if I'm the guy to go to for the review of the latest Def Leppard album, but quite a few people did, and got quite a few thumbs up. I got a couple of people put thumbs down, obviously, because I didn't totally love the album. Maybe they did, but so that's always nice too when you do a video and you get a lot of sort of people watching it and commenting and things like that. So
it actually can't. All those shows that I was mentioning previously, like the Rush and the one with the Bowie with Reed. I can pick one show, which is probably my favourite, and that was doing the Dam with Martin Popoff.
Oh, yeah.
He's just a wonderful guest, and he's the rock brain of the universe. And that was my first sort of show with him, and felt really comfortable. And it was just basically two fans just yabbering away about a band they love. So, that's probably my favourite. And I really enjoyed that, and that's one for the books. And at the end of the day, I do this YouTube channel because I enjoy it, and I know you do, and you put a lot of effort, and I do as well. But at the end of the day, we've got a record for our kids, and that's important. And that really brings a bit of a smile to my face that like when we're long gone, hopefully. This is still up there, and on this date we've been doing a Q&A.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I'll do one more question.
Yeah.
So, and that'll even it out. What do you hope Santa gets you for Christmas? So, if we theoretically drop this clip around Christmas, it could be a Christmas present for you, bought by you, or could be from your wife, or could be from one of your kid. What do you hope Santa drops down the chimney under your tree for Christmas?
Well, record voucher's always good, isn't it? I can,
doesn't go amiss.
It's always good. It's always good. But
can't
I think
fail because you make the.
Yeah. I know that my wife has talked about getting me because she knows I'm doing shows, and she has talked about getting me a microphone, like one of those fancy looking ones. So maybe that's what I'll get, and I don't know if that's gonna make my show. I'm going to make me sound better, but so that might be coming. But otherwise, if I don't know what I'm getting, voucher's always good. Yeah, then I can choose.
Well, I got myself a little present from Amazon, and it's a little box set about a certain album that came out in 1982. Not exactly cheap, but Creatures of the Night.
Oh, wow.
So I'm looking forward to that. So might be playing a few of the demos and the 50th version of Creatures of the Night or whatever.
Great. Yeah.
I'm trying to be a little bit more frugal and a little bit more discerning with my box sets, but this is one I just couldn't ignore because it's my favorite Kiss album. It's the heaviest Kiss album. Had Vinny, even though he doesn't play on all the tracks, and I've got a soft spot for Vinnie Vincent, and got to have it. So I've got the full bell and whistles, and
right,
playing that on Christmas Day. So see how we go.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I actually so I brought that, but I did a bit of a boo boo, and I thought I was buying the vinyl, and I brought the CD. So I have the CD of the reissue. So yeah.
Well, you just have to go back and get the vinyl as well.
Yeah. Exactly. Hey, so
what do you think of it, mate? Does it sound good?
Well, no, I haven't actually played it.
Okay.
Because I'm nothing against CDs, but I just don't play CDs much these days. It's either vinyl or I'm streaming. I've got a CD player. It's just, and I do plan on playing it, but to be honest, I really wanted it on vinyl, so I may just try and sell it and then
just,
pay
bite the bullet.
Yeah, but I'm still interested in hearing it, definitely. So yeah.
I've got a ton of CDs. I still get CDs if there's an artist I really value or a purchase that I really put some weight and value on. I will get the vinyl, even if it's straight off the bat. But if there's something that I want to experiment, an artist I haven't heard or something that I don't place as much high value on, I will get a CD, and because they're relatively cheap, and buying a $20 CD is a better investment than spending $65 on a Aussie dollar on a piece of vinyl, and if it's no good. So I've still got a ton of CD.
No, and it's good to because you want to have it in your collection too, and then maybe if you're not that fussed about it, it's in your collection, but you're getting it at a cheaper price because you just got it on CD, and it also doesn't take up as much room. So there's lots of advantages, definitely.
Absolutely. Well, that's been great. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Steve. So tonight we've done a bit of a Q&A, found out a little bit more about each other, and please check out Steve's channel. It's fantastic. Rock and Metal Invasion, lots of great contact, whatever. It's Christmas. I can make bloopers. Please like and subscribe to Rock Daydream Nation, and I'm sure in the new year we're going to do plenty of shows together, and see you really soon. Cheers.